Before we get into the video, we're joined today by a special guest again. We've got another Piers Morgan panel to look at, this time with Tim Miller taking on Russian propagandist Dave Smith, with two other panel members as well, as it made for some rather contentious discussion about Trump and all things relevant to MAGA really, of which I've got lined up for us and we can knock out with the context.
Every single enemy that they wanted a regime change against was always the next Hitler. Saddam Hussein's the next Hitler, Bashar al-Assad, Muammar Gaddafi, whoever it is, they're the next Hitler. And it's always just so ridiculous. And I've heard from a lot of the hardcore Israel supporters that Hamas are Nazis. The comparisons are ridiculous. And we don't need to pretend that this, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you if you're trying to interrupt me, but let me just finish my point. I think that the Nazis were a unique evil, and to call everybody Nazis just it does just make the term lose value. Now, I would say that to downplay the amount of censorship that we saw under the Biden regime, and even before Joe Biden came in, I think is just not fair. I mean, listen, as somebody who was adamantly opposed to lockdowns and vaccine mandates during COVID, the censorship was very widespread, and many people had their lives and livelihoods ruined simply for speaking up about government policies that, by the way, they turned out to be right about. And all the people saying follow the science turned out to be wrong about quite a bit of the science.
Something I've came to realize is only Nazis find it annoying when you point out Nazi behavior. I mean, look who he even points out here in the defense. Saddam Hussein, who was targeted after he committed acts of genocide against the Kurds. The Assad regime that has also committed genocidal actions and massacred its own civilians. And Muammar Gaddafi, who committed some of the most vile human rights violations with, you guessed it, genocidal acts as well. These MAGA dipshits just simp for autocratic dictators because that's what they want Trump to be largely. They're anti-American in every sense of the word, and it's disgusting to see play out in real time. Sickening. Also, the lockdowns happened under Trump. I don't get what is with this revisionist history of pretending it happened under Biden, and Trump refusing to bail out states caused them to stay locked down longer. As to what he says at the end, complete fan fiction. None of the conspiracy theories about COVID have ever been proven to have any merit to them, and all the science about the vaccines rung exactly true. Herd immunity was around 70% of the population. Getting the vaccine made the virus less deadly, made you less likely to transmit it to others. All indisputable big boy facts that MAGA hates to hear because it shatters the worldview that they've largely built their personalities around in joining the cult.
This is supposed to be a patriotic, pro-police, pro-Christian party, and immediately the first thing you do is pardon people that did an arson outside a black church, that tased police officers, that stormed the Capitol. Have you seen the picture of Sergeant Aquiles Ganell's body? Like what happened to his feet and hands because of the way that these people attacked them? The actual person that tased Michael Fanone, that person got pardoned. It is just insane and appalling that Donald Trump did that. And the fact that not a single person in the supposed Back the Blue party, I guess that's not true. I think Tom Tillis might have, but the fact that you have to maybe come up with one person that said this is wrong, I don't know. I don't know actually how you kind of sleep at night if you're a Back the Blue person and you're like, we're going to let somebody out of prison that tased police officers.
Well, I mean, Dave Smith, if you look at the list of people that Biden's pardoned, they include murderers, very controversial, cop killers, and others. There is a direct parallel there. They've also preemptively pardoned Dr. Fauci.
I mean, notice how there's no response to anything Tim says here, but to go, whoa, Biden did pardons too. And they're also lying here. Biden did not pardon murderers and cop killers. And even if he did, that is, again, not a response or justification to any of Trump's pardons. This is what I was talking about this morning with MAGA. They feel like if they can just point fingers at Democrats, they never have to answer about anything. It's like little bro that gets caught stealing and then tells on big bro for something he stole last week. Fauci was pardoned because Trump nominated an attorney general with his name on a hit list, despite him not having any evidence of committing a crime or there being no reason to believe he committed any crimes. It's just the anti-COVID conspiracy theorists want his head on a stake to feel vindicated for their conspiracy theories that science has proven wrong time and time again. Meanwhile, Trump has pardoned people who are on video attacking cops, Daniel Rodriguez is on video attacking cops, tasing an officer in the neck specifically. David Dempsey is on video pepper spraying cops. There is no justification for any of this. And the party of law and order is quick to toss all their principles aside just to do whatever it is that Trump wants.
In Washington, D.C., half of all felony charges are dropped and lowered to misdemeanors. They basically don't put violent criminals in jail in Joe Biden's administration unless you were involved in the January 6th riots. So they weren't treated equally under justice. This was a political prosecution.
People that stab cops and tase cops and bear mace cops in D.C. get misdemeanors? I would like to see the evidence of that. I just don't understand. If you're so cool with this, if you're just like, whatever, it's no big deal, let's wipe the slate clean. Why don't we wipe the slate clean and let out all of the BLM rioters who attacked cops too? Let everybody out. It was unfair, was politicized.
I don't think hardly any of them were actually put in prison.
You can't decide on a case-by-case.
Yeah, and that's what gives the game away, really. These people will say, whoa, me, an unfair judicial system, how harsh the punishment, yet they never have a peep to say about the BLM protesters. It's only when it's conservatives that all of a sudden the judicial system is so harsh and prisons are unfair and all of this. Dave Smith goes on a whole rant about how brutal the conditions are in jail and how he'd want them released because it's been years that they've spent in this and it's like all just complete political whatever, right? Well, I checked and he's never said any of that about any of the BLM rioters, which all the same could apply to, but he's a centrist, right, guys? And the other guy instantly goes on to spew just all the talking points, also not true. And I can't find anything to confirm or deny the 50% number he says about felonies getting lowered in DC. This is something that is commonly said by conservatives about Alvin Bragg in New York because it is true under his tenure there. And I feel like he's just trying to do propaganda and extrapolate that to attach it to any kind of prosecution he doesn't like. These people are essentially just a bunch of hypocrites, charlatans, really. They want to be both the bully and the victim at the same time. And that's why they're now cheering on criminals getting out of jail because they vote red. At the same time, they want to further demonize brown people because they're criminals.